there exists an essence, an archetype of a person who walks into a room and doesn't need to utter a single word. Yet every gaze naturally turns toward them, not because they're loud, not because they're trying to make an impression, but because they are still, completely focused inward. They don't need to shout to be heard. They don't need to prove themselves to earn respect. And even in their absence, their presence, like an echo of ancient power, lingers. It's a force that comes from within. One the crowd often avoids, but secretly fears. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome and one of the greatest Stoic alchemists who ever lived, understood this truth deeply. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. In a world overflowing with distractions and noise, self-focus is no longer a luxury. It is a weapon of survival. It is mental power in its highest form, forged in the crucible of introspection. Today, we will uncover Marcus Aurelius's 9 coldest rules to understand why focusing on yourself isn't selfish, but rather a profound act of inner freedom's alchemy. Self-focus is a weapon. 1. Self-focus is a weapon. In a world where people talk too much, the one who chooses silence begins, inevitably, to become dangerous. In the age of social media, with notifications pouring in every minute and social expectations weighing down every day, the ability to focus on yourself without being sucked into the whirlwind of noise is not just a skill. It is a weapon. Not everyone can return to themselves because it requires discipline. It requires turning away from things that look sweet but are empty. The approving glance, the fake likes, the polite nods. In a world where people react on instinct, to comments, to criticism, to the latest news, the one who chooses not to react, but instead acts by their own unshakable principles, is the one who gains ultimate control. And that is why self-focus is a weapon, not against others, but against distraction, dependency, and weakness within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When he said that, he wasn't comforting you. He was warning you. You can blame circumstances. You can let yourself be swayed by what others say, what they think of you, what they failed to do for you. But when you do that, you have surrendered. You have handed over control of your inner world to the outside world. Only when you turn back, face your own mind with all its chaos, and train it to stand firm, do you become truly strong. And no one can take that strength away. The one who knows how to keep their focus is the one who knows how to choose their battles. And the battle is not out there. It happens every minute inside your head. When you want to answer back to an insult, when you want to prove to the world that you too have value, when you crave recognition instantly. But the one who focuses on themselves does not play that game. They step back. They observe. They build quietly without needing anyone to notice. Because they know the self that needs to be proven is not to others. It is to themselves. Every single day, the one who cannot control their attention is always being led. They say what the crowd says. They think what social media thinks. They live a life others have drawn for them. But the one who knows how to focus on themselves, they build from the ground up, brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. And they are never in a rush. They don't need recognition, because their silence is what makes them dangerous. It is the danger of self-mastery. And that is why self-focus is not an option. It is a weapon. A weapon you must sharpen every day, not to attack, but to avoid being swallowed. To stand firm when the world rushes forward without knowing where it's going. There is no one more dangerous than a quiet person with a purpose. Nothing unsettles the crowd more than someone who does not need attention. Because that person knows one thing. When you focus on yourself, you don't get swept away. you create the waves. You become the storm. And now, if you are truly ready to step out of distraction, write this down. I disappear to evolve in the calm sea. Comments below the video. Distraction is the smiling enemy. 2. Distraction is the smiling enemy. Jack starts his day with fierce determination. He puts his phone aside and opens the philosophy book he has long wanted to read. But after just 10 minutes, the ding of an Instagram notification makes his hand react automatically. One glance, one scroll, one meaningless comment, then another short video. 30 minutes slip away. The book remains untouched while Jack's mind is shredded into fragments. In a single day, Jack checks his phone more than 150 times, and each time, he loses a piece of his ability to think deeply without even realizing it. Distraction doesn't come at you with knives or sticks. It doesn't scream or smash things. It comes with sweetness. A funny meme, a cute video, a familiar message. Distraction is an enemy disguised as a friend. It doesn't attack you. It invites you. It smiles. People often think enemies destroy us with fury. But no, distraction kills you with softness. A quick hit of entertainment, a cheap dose of dopamine, and then a year is gone. You're still you, and your goals are still out of reach. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" A simple question, but if you answer honestly, you'll see how you are really living. How many things you did today were truly necessary? How many were unconscious reflexes? How many minutes did you lose to nothing? When Marcus Aurelius wrote this, he was the emperor of Rome, ruling an empire, leading wars, handling endless problems. And still he made time to write Meditations, a personal journal of inner self-examination. If an emperor could be that strict about his focus, then you who seek to master yourself cannot afford to live carelessly in the buffet of distractions served you every minute. Strength doesn't belong to the one with the most time, but to the one who knows how to protect time from invisible thieves. They don't break in at night. They knock on the door with cuteness. They make you believe you're still in control, when in fact you are the one being controlled. Deep thinking cannot take root in a mind fractured by constant interruptions. You cannot grow clarity if your mind has to reload every minute. Jack, who checks his phone 150 times a day, will never reach the depth of someone who sits for 3 uninterrupted hours to think, read, and write. It's not about IQ. It's about sustained intensity of focus, something only those brave enough to reject. The smiling distraction can ever possess. You don't need to fight everything, but you must learn to ignore at the right moment and defend your mental space like a warrior guards a fortress. Every time you dismiss a notification, you forge steel in your willpower. Every hour you stay undisturbed, you rebuild the deep thinking ability the world is stealing from you bit by bit. Distraction isn't just noise. It's a trap, a smiling one. But once you recognize that smile is false, you'll no longer be seduced by it. And at that moment, you are no longer the victim. You are the one in control. Strategic isolation. 3. Strategic isolation. The modern world has given birth to a strange fear. The fear of being alone. The fear of silence. The fear of facing the mirror of the soul. But what the majority avoids is exactly where the strong sharpen their swords. Isolation is not for the weak. It is a strategy, a cold decision to withdraw from the noise of the world and reconstruct inner strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He was not talking about a distant mountain, not a monastery, but inside us, the deepest place, the place where there is only confrontation, no pretending, no cheering crowd, no applause. When the world becomes too loud, the inner self is the final fortress, the place where the strong retreat, reinforce their will, and plan domination. Look at the most dangerous people. They are often silent. They don't narrate the process. They don't share every move. They disappear. And when they return, everything has changed. Strategic isolation is not withdrawal. It is recalibration. It is like a soldier pulling back to the rear to serve as his weapon, not to surrender, but to return with greater firepower. Elon Musk once spent 5 days straight isolating himself in a factory, only to read, only to learn how to build rockets. No engineers, no advice, just him, the books, and a single goal. Understand it. Do it. The result was SpaceX. Something even NASA once thought impossible. You may not build a spacecraft, but you can rebuild yourself, reforge your thinking, and the only thing you need is to cut the noise. No one can make great decisions while the mind is pulled by notifications, emotions, and the craving to be seen. You must disappear in order to reconfigure. The crowd only sees the outcome. They don't know what happened while you were gone. They guess, they doubt, they worry. Let them guess. Let them doubt, let them fear. But you know exactly what you are doing. You withdraw with strategy. You are building an empire in silence. And remember, the calm one in the midst of chaos is the most dangerous. Strategic isolation does not last forever. It lasts until you are ready to emerge as a version no one expected. And when you return, you need no announcement. Your silence will speak for you. Do you think quick reactions are powerful? Wrong. On the battlefield of the mind, the first to lose control is the first to lose. In the next part, we will uncover why the first to get angry, the first to resist, the first to tremble, is always the one at a disadvantage, and how Marcus Aurelius wielded strategic apathy to rule an empire without ever raising his voice. Don't miss it. The one who reacts first loses. 4. The one who reacts first loses. In a brutal negotiation, two sides sit face to face. One side talks a lot, reacts quickly, trying to seize control with words and emotion. The other side stays silent, only watching, only analyzing. And then, when the moment comes, a short, cold sentence is spoken and the entire game changes. The winner is not the one who reacts fast. The winner is the one who controls himself. In life, this repeats again and again. The first to get angry, the first to rush into defense, the first to justify himself. They think that is a strength, but in truth, they are turning themselves into puppets. Reacting too fast means letting the opponent dictate the rhythm. It means handing over the keys to your own emotions. If you cannot hold your mind steady, you will be swept into someone else's rhythm. If you cannot control your reaction, you lose the only true power you ever have, the power to rule yourself. In a world full of emotional manipulation, reacting fast is the shortest road to being controlled. Strategists, seasoned negotiators, and silent dominators all know one thing. Calmness is a weapon. Silence unsettles the opponent. Slowness disorients them. They want you to react instantly because the moment you do, you are no longer thinking, only operating on instinct. And instinct is predictable, exploitable, and easy to defeat. Look at the world. In arguments, the one who shouts first is often the weaker one. On the battlefield, the one who charges first is often the one who falls. In life, the one who rushes to explain himself is often the one who lacks confidence in the truth. In every game, reacting quickly is not always a strength. Sometimes it is only proof that you cannot endure the silence. True strength does not lie in speed of reaction. It lies in control. The strong one is the person who sees provocation without trembling. The strong one is the person who hears an insult without rushing to reply. The strong one is the person who can delay his response in order to choose a decisive action. And here's the cold principle. The one who reacts first will lose. Not because he is less intelligent, but because he has stepped into the other person's arena. He has let the opponent set the rules. He has surrendered his power from the very first moment. The Stoics chose a different path. They remain silent. They observe. They master their breath. And when the moment arrives, they act not because they were forced, but because they chose to. That is not reaction. That is decision. So remember this in life. You do not need to be the fastest. You need to be the calmest. Calmness is the throne. Control is the weapon. And silence is the deadliest strike. Self-focus builds leverage. 5. Self-focus builds leverage. In a tense negotiation, both sides fall silent. The atmosphere is heavy as lead. All eyes are fixed on the negotiation table. The one who speaks first, who breaks the silence, is often the weaker side. Because, in the world of psychology and power, whoever reacts first has already revealed their weakness. The urge to fill the void is the greatest vulnerability. The truly strong one is the person who can remain silent, endure the discomfort of waiting, and wield the calm like a concealed blade. We are living in an era where emotions are manipulated by the second. Social media, the news, attacks from others, everything is designed to pull you into an immediate reaction. A single comment can ignite fury. A contemptuous glance can trigger an outburst. But remember, a quick reaction is not strength. It's a trap. The first person to lose their composure has already handed their power to someone else. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote may seem simple, but it is the cornerstone of the entire Stoic philosophy. When you react instantly to external actions, you've surrendered control of your mind to something beyond your command. On the other hand, when you stay calm, you not only protect your inner peace, but reclaim the right to choose. Power lies not in the speed of your response, but in your ability to pause, observe, and then decide whether or not to act. Look at the battlefield of business, where billion-dollar deals are sealed not by those who talk the most, but by those who master silence. The one who controls the tempo controls the outcome. They let the other side expose their impatience, their volatility, and from there take control of the game. This applies to everyday life too. When someone insults you, the faster you react, the more you reveal your insecurity. But when you hold your silence with cold composure, the other person begins to feel uneasy. What are they thinking? Do they look down on me? Are they preparing to strike back? That very uncertainty is your psychological weapon. A quick reaction is the mark of a manipulated mind. A slow, measured response is the mark of a strategist. The weak seek instant emotional relief. The strong treat emotion like a playing card, only to be revealed when the time is right. In a noisy world where everyone fights to be heard, become the one who holds back. Remember, silence is not weakness. Silence is preparation. Maintain your distance. Steady your breath. Keep your gaze calm. The person across from you will feel pressure from that unwavering stillness. The one who reacts first loses. This is not only a rule of strategy, it is a principle of life. The first person to lose their temper in an argument has already lost. The first to react to provocation has handed over their power. The first to follow the crowd has abandoned their individuality. In Stoic discipline, victory doesn't come from defeating others, but from not letting others defeat your mind. When you master your reactions, you master your fate. That is the coldest, most precise mental weapon, the one Marcus Aurelius left behind for us. Kill the need to be seen. 6. Kill the need to be seen. True wealth doesn't need to be seen. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA and one of the richest men in the world, drove an old Volvo and ate humble meals. He had nothing to prove, and it was precisely this unseen presence that made his power elusive, undefinable, and indestructible. Because the more someone craves the spotlight, the more likely they are to become a puppet in the game they think they control. In modern life, we're taught to expose everything, to show the world what we're doing, what we're eating, who we're loving. But this very exposure becomes a chain. Those who constantly need attention begin to act according to others' eyes. They no longer choose freely. They become like actors trapped on stage, living for the audience instead of themselves. In contrast, the one who knows how to stay hidden, the one who doesn't depend on external validation, is the one quietly steering the true current. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This quote lays bare a bitter paradox. We are born loving ourselves, yet allow others' voices to define our worth. That is a weakness. That is how we hand over our power to the world. The Stoic understands that true power begins the moment we sever that cord. When we stop living to be seen and start living to master ourselves. God, imagine a warrior in the dark. He doesn't need a torch. He doesn't need others to see him draw his sword. It's in his stillness, his invisibility, that his danger lies. The same is true in our inner lives. The one who is silent, who does not hunger to prove anything, possesses the sharpest weapon of all, freedom. He can act without being beholden. He can change without needing permission. And when he succeeds, that success isn't measured by applause, but by the wholeness within. Those who live to be seen end up prisoners of sight. They need praise to keep going, a crowd to feel validated, the spotlight to feel alive. That is not a strength. That is dependency. Meanwhile, the one who walks in silence can endure solitude, can keep planting seeds for a harvest no one anticipates. Their silence is a weapon. Their invisibility is power. And when you no longer need to be seen, you cannot be controlled. Number 1 can buy you with likes, manipulate you with glances, or lead you with approval. You stand firm like a mountain in the storm. You write your own rules, and those rules are cold and clear. You owe no one a performance. You only owe yourself progress. This is the essence of kill the need to be seen. When that need dies, a stronger version of you is born. One no longer bound by looks, no longer a slave to applause, no longer acting out any role other than one's true self. If you're truly ready to step out of the artificial light of recognition, write in the comments, "I kill the need to be seen." Declare it. Make it your manifesto. Because only then will you truly begin to control the game. Discipline is the fortress. 7. Discipline is the fortress. Discipline never needs to boast. It is not a snapshot of your morning coffee, nor is it a determined status on social media. Discipline does not crave the spotlight. It stands silently in the background like a fortress, shielding its owner from the chaos of the world and the betrayal of their own mind. That's why Marcus Aurelius once affirmed, "If you want to master life, begin by mastering yourself." And the instrument of that mastery is none other than discipline. When you live with discipline, you raise invisible walls. Every habit you maintain, every temptation you reject becomes a brick in that fortress. Outsiders don't see the building process. They only see your cold silence. But within that silence, strength is forged day by day. The undisciplined are the opposite. They flaunt their intentions, but their results crumble from within. They depend on the admiration of others to maintain their motivation. But you don't need an audience. You only need your fortress. What creates the difference is not a promise, but repetition. Discipline is doing the same thing again and again, even when no one sees, even when no one praises. It's waking up early while The world is still asleep. It's reading a single page when others are curled up in trivial comforts. It's completing the task even when your mind begs you to quit. In those very moments, you carve the identity of a master. You prove that you do not live as a dependent being, not dependent on whims, not on recognition, not on pity. The disciplined are silent rulers, keepers of a fortress no one can breach. The outside world loves to flaunt progress. People want the world to know they've started a journey. But true discipline doesn't need that. You don't need to post a story every morning to prove you're awake. You don't need to announce to the world that you are changing. True transformation doesn't happen on a phone screen. It happens in a dark room where you repeat a small act hundreds of times until even you are surprised by the power you've created. Discipline is never flashy. It is cold, harsh, but that very harshness makes it an unshakable fortress. When discipline becomes your fortress, you are no longer easily swayed by the storms outside. You are no longer pulled by comparisons or social pressure. Others may doubt you, mock you, or even try to stop you. But you know this. Behind these walls, you are safe. You are focused. You are invincible. Your silence becomes your loudest statement. And once the fortress is built, you are no longer just protecting yourself. You can lead. You can inspire. You can become an anchor for those struggling amidst chaos. Remember, no fortress is built in a day, but every small act of discipline, no matter how overlooked, is a brick you lay. One day, when you look back, you'll realize you're standing within a massive stronghold. Not everyone has the right to step inside, and that very solitude is the mark of strength. Discipline is a fortress. No one can break it unless you open the door yourself. And the one who can maintain discipline holds the ultimate power. The power to master oneself before mastering anything else. But beware, there exists a weapon colder than discipline itself. It's invisible, yet it can sever all the unseen chains that bind your mind. If discipline is the fortress that guards you from chaos, then that weapon is the blade that cuts you free from emotional bondage. In the next chapter, we will enter the next secret. Emotional detachment is the invisible blade. 8. Emotional detachment is the invisible blade. There exists a weapon that most people cannot see. It bears no gleam of steel. It emits no piercing scream. It sheds no blood on the battlefield. Yet it has the power to sever every chain binding your mind. That weapon is emotional detachment. People often believe that emotions are proof of life, the essence of what makes us human. And that is true. But those same emotions, if left unchecked, become the greatest vulnerability through which others can invade. A person who anxiety too easily becomes a puppet of rage. A person desperate for approval becomes a slave to praise and criticism. A person gripped by the fear of loss is driven into blind decisions. The enemy doesn't need immense strength. They only need to trigger your emotional weakness, and you will destroy yourself with your own hands. But the one who understands detachment is different. They are not cold-hearted. They simply have the ability to step outside the storm of emotion. When provoked, they do not react impulsively. When insulted, they do not retaliate hastily. When the market crashes, they do not flee in panic. This calmness is the invisible blade that severs the power of external forces. It is the art of being untouched. You can clearly see this difference in the world of investing. When the market bleeds red and the crowd panics and sells in chaos, the one who keeps their cool is the one who preserves their wealth. Warren Buffett once said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." That mindset is not just a financial strategy. It is a lesson in mental strength, to not dissolve into the emotions of the crowd, but to remain separate and act with reason. But why is detachment considered a weapon? Because in a chaotic world, The one who does not get swept away is the one who holds the power. No one can control you if they cannot reach your emotions. They may call you cold, ruthless, heartless, but it is that very coldness that protects you. It is that coldness that allows you to see truth unclouded. Emotional detachment does not mean becoming a stone. On the contrary, it is how you master your emotions instead of being mastered by them. You choose the moment to respond rather than reacting by impulse. You know when to speak and when to stay silent. You know when to advance and when to retreat. And this control makes you dangerous in the eyes of others because they cannot predict you, cannot control you, cannot manipulate you. Picture this. In the heart of a raging storm, you stand firm like a rock, still, cold, unmoved. Around you, people panic, scream, and desperately grasp for something to hold on to. But you breathe slowly. You observe, and you wait for the precise moment to strike. That is true power. Not the power of the one who yells the loudest, but the power of the one whose silence makes the whole room uneasy. So train yourself to wield that invisible sword. Do not let emotions become a breach in your armor. Do not let anger make you a fool. Do not let the hunger for recognition turn you into a slave. Step away from that manipulation, and you will discover detachment is not loss. It is liberation. And in a world where everyone is ruled by emotion, the one who separates themselves is the one who truly rules. Solitude and evolution. 9. Solitude and evolution. Have you ever wondered why the strongest, most intelligent individuals often choose to walk through the dark, lonely paths instead of immersing themselves in the dazzling spotlight of the crowd? The answer lies in this. Loneliness, when embraced and harnessed, becomes the forge that tempers an unbreakable mind. To many, loneliness is a punishment, but to those with enough courage, it is a brutal test, like a fighter entering a cold training room day after day, accompanied only by sweat and breath. Muhammad Ali once admitted he hated every minute of training, but he didn't quit because he knew that enduring the present was the price to live as a champion. What Ali understood is the same truth Marcus Aurelius lived. No glory is born from comfort, and no evolution happens amidst the cheers of the crowd. That's why solitude is not the absence of others, but the full presence of yourself. When you disconnect from the noise out there, you begin to hear the voice within. When you stop chasing external validation, you start validating yourself. And that is the true beginning of evolution. For those who enter the darkness of solitude will emerge reshaped, sharper, stronger, and untouchable. The world out there adores those who are always available, always present, always seeking attention. But Marcus Aurelius taught that true strength lies in the one who dares to disappear in order to become something greater. In the darkness of solitude, you lay the foundation. You train your mind and you extinguish weak desires. Just like a seed must be buried deep in the soil before it grows into a mighty tree, a person must accept isolation to crack the old shell and be reborn into a higher self. Make no mistake, solitude is not abandonment. It is a strategy. It is discipline. When you're alone, you're no longer manipulated by praise nor swayed by the gaze of others. You have nothing to prove to anyone. And in that very moment, you begin to prove something to yourself. Real evolution happens in silence, where there are no fireworks, no applause, just you facing yourself. And when you finally emerge from the shadows, the world will no longer recognize you. They will see a hardened gaze, an unshakable calm, and a source of power they cannot control. By then, you will no longer seek recognition, because you will have become your own greatest masterpiece. As Marcus Aurelius implied, the one who masters himself is truly free, and the free can never be bound out. So don't fear solitude. See it as your secret battleground where your character and mind are forged. Let the darkness sharpen your focus. Let silence teach you discipline. And let your temporary disappearance be the launchpad for a return that cannot be ignored. Because in the end, only those who dare to walk into solitude have the strength to evolve. And only the evolution forged in silence creates the kind of power that makes the world bow down. Marcus Aurelius ever needed to prove his power with weapons. His empire was ruled through self-control, and you don't need the world to constantly watch you either. What matters is the silence where you sharpen your focus. What matters is the discipline no one sees. One day when you return, carrying focus as sharp as a blade and silence as your weapon, they will finally understand. You don't need to be seen because you are already in control. Now, I want to ask you, in your own life, do you feel stronger when you show the world your progress or when you build in silence? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your perspective. And if this message spoke to you, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more Stoic Alchemy.